Good morning, miss. I'm Jack Norm, police inspector. I'm charged with routine investigation of the death of Mr. Jones.
Good morning, Mrs. Jones, Clara Jones. I'm Billy Jones's wife. Walter Jones was his grandfather, but I didn't really know him. So I will be direct with you. I'm not really in an awful state about his death.
I'm collecting footprints, and I'd like to add yours.
My feet? It seems they are marvelous. You are amazing, Inspector. Go on.
Thanks. I just have some questions to ask you. I'm surprised that Colio, even if he was angry at Jones, was not more grateful for his generosity.
I wasn't in the know, Inspector.
What can you tell me regarding the death of Walter Jones?
I have Denolan's version. He said that he went to the Tortoise Belvedere where Walter Jones had fallen from the top of the cliff in his wheelchair. Now, whether it was an accident or a murder, that I can't say. I wasn't at the site, Inspector.
Where were you and what were you doing last night?
Well, I was at the restaurant throughout the evening, and I can't say anything more. It was Nolan who informed us about Walter's death.
What was your relationship with Walter Jones?
Would you be surprised if I said that our relationship was far from good? His death won't change anything. This guy hurt a lot of people. I won't cry for him.
This menu seems utterly appetizing. Tell me, what are we eating today?
I love cooking, and I do pretty well. But I'd be utterly incapable of making any of the dishes on this wretched menu.
This tower on this wild island, far from everything, isn't it madness?
Tell me, Inspector, are you here to have a good time or to conduct an investigation?
What luxury. For some, the world is all roses. But where did the staff go? I don't see them.
Old Man Jones threw out all his staff to force his children to handle everything. And I certainly don't like playing the maid.
Who is the rightful owner of this piece of chain?
These links are really strong. It must be a man's.
What reasons could Billy have had for hating his grandfather?
How can you love someone who never helped you even when he had the power? I know my Billy sometimes abuses money, but Walter Jones was really heartless. He never lifted even his little finger to get Billy out of his problems.
So, tell me a little about Billy.
Billy is not a solid and mature man on whom one can rely, Inspector. My life with him is not always easy, but he makes me laugh and amuses me. And he still surprises me after all these years. So, what can I say?
I would love it if you could tell me a little about Sonia.
Sonia is an exceptional woman, Inspector. She inherited the straightforwardness of her mother. And I'm lucky to have a sister-in-law like her, you know.
What do you think of Colio?
I don't really know this Mr. Colio, but he's always very polite with me.
What do you know about Lorenzo Battiglieri?
Lorenzo Battiglieri is doubtlessly talented, Inspector, but I don't like his cynical and embittered nature.
What do you think of Baina?
I always wondered what happened to her, the poor thing. I wanted to talk about the accident. Indeed, the Jones family is in the habit of calling it the accident. She became mute after all.
And could you tell me more about this accident?
My husband already told me about it, but he doesn't know anything precise. He only told me that Jones and Baina had an accident together.
I would like to know more about Martin.
I like Martin. He gives the impression of being a good sort. In general, my intuition is never wrong, Inspector. But we don't know each other very well, in fact.
What do you think of the attorney, Hubert de Nolant?
Hubert de Nolant is a real professional, Inspector. And an attorney like him is influential. I never forget.
Did you see anyone at the Tortoise Belvedere last evening, or did anything at all catch your attention?
Well, I can't tell you anything. I spent the evening at the restaurant. Sonia, Martin, and Billy will confirm this.
Do you know anything about medicine?
No, Inspector.
I understand. Too bad that you can't help me.
Without a doubt. Thank you. Excuse me, just one question. It won't be too long. I'm told that an accident left Baina mute. What is that about?
A dark family story, Jack. My grandfather never wanted to tell us what happened between him and Baina that day. What is sure is that both of them fell from the top of the rocks. Since then, the old man was in a wheelchair, and the island bird didn't say another word. In my opinion, it was a love story that turned bitter.
What can you tell me about Clara?
Without Clara, I'd be utterly lost. Clara's a saint, dude. And the truth is that I don't deserve her. In fact, this girl is too good for me.
Surely.
The interview can start, Inspector.
I'm told that an accident left Baina mute. What is that about?
I don't know anything. My wife spoke to me about it. I know that Jones and Baina had a fall together that could have been fatal, but I don't know anything more.
So, tell me a little about Billy.
I'm afraid my brother-in-law has put himself in a tough spot, Inspector. He is compromising his career by gambling in a totally irrational manner.
What can you tell me about Clara?
I appreciate Billy's wife. She is charming, even if her conversations are rather limited, one has to admit.
I see. Good morning, Inspector Jack Norm. I'm the one charged with investigating the death of Mr. Jones.
Ah, it's you who will be investigating. Very good. Good morning, Inspector. I'm Marco Jones. Walter Jones was my grandfather. I would have preferred if you had been a tourist, because you have landed on the island of Segura for a sad reason.
May I photograph your shoes?
No problem. Do as you have to, Inspector.
Thanks.
Ah, it's you again, Inspector. So,
I'm surprised that Colio, even if he was angry at Jones, was not more grateful for his generosity.
I have nothing to say about that, Inspector. I don't know what you're talking about.
What do these gifts from Jones hide? Why did he want to assure the future of Colio and his daughter?
I can say nothing on the subject, Inspector.
What can you tell me regarding the death of Walter Jones?
How I would have loved to have done something to save my grandfather, but it was too late and too dangerous. It was Noland who gave me the news. He suspects the daughter of the fisherman, but it's you who is the inspector, not me.
Where were you and what were you doing last night?
I spent the evening in my room, in Christina's company. It was Sonia who told me around 11:30 p.m. about what had happened. It was difficult to believe it. My grandfather was a real force of nature, despite his handicap.
What was your relationship with Walter Jones?
I greatly appreciated my grandfather. Walter was a great man, Inspector. I admired his rise to success. He did it all alone. We were very close in spite of all the old stories which my brother and my sister must have endlessly told you about.
Which stories are you talking about?
Old family quarrels. We are divided on our opinion about my grandfather, you see. My brother and my sister maybe hope to involve you. As far as it concerns me, I've nothing to add.
This tower on this wild island, far from everything, isn't it madness?
Alas, my grandfather will not have the time to successfully finish the magnificent project, of which this brochure gives you only a small taste.
What luxury. For some, the world is all roses. But where did the staff go? I don't see them.
Indeed, Nolan told me that my grandfather had to part with his staff, but for a reason that I don't know, Inspector.
Walter Jones gave this to Baina, didn't he? What were the bonds that connected them?
Really, Inspector, I didn't know. It's not the kind of thing my grandfather would do.
Who is the rightful owner of this piece of chain?
Sorry, Inspector Norm, but I'm afraid I won't be useful to you.
I'm wondering whose shoe prints these are.
I can't be useful. I can just tell those are not mine, Inspector.
I'm told that an accident left Baina mute. What is that about?
My grandfather was always very discreet about that. I know that he and Baina fell off the cliff right here on this island, and that it cost him the use of his limbs. As for Baina, she remained mute from the time of the tragic event. But I don't know more details about this affair, Inspector.
What reasons could Billy have had for hating his grandfather?
Our grandfather hated the useless waste of money. Billy lost a lot of money gambling and hoped that grandfather would help him float back up, which of course he refused.
So, tell me a little about Billy.
Billy is still a child at heart, Inspector. He still makes me laugh sometimes, but he is totally irresponsible. It's very hard for his family.
I would love it if you could tell me a little about Sonia.
Sonia is my sister, and I have a lot of affection for her. She is a very strong and courageous woman.
What do you think of Colio?
I saw Colio on several occasions, of course, but I don't know him well.
What do you know about Lorenzo Battaglieri?
Lorenzo is a mystery for me, Inspector. He's a professional lightweight, bordering on an imposter, and he takes refuge in a cynical depression that's very unpleasant for others.
What do you think of Baina?
I don't really know her, Inspector. I have nothing special to say on this subject.
I would like to know more about Martin.
I appreciate my brother-in-law's qualities, Inspector, but we don't see each other much, and I hardly know him, and that's fine with me.
What do you think of the attorney, Hubert de Nolant?
Nolant. He's not a nobody. He's one of the best business attorneys on this planet, Inspector. It's not by chance that my grandfather recruited him.
What can you tell me about Clara?
Clara is an extremely kind woman, Inspector. She is almost a saint, and I don't know how she has put up with Billy for so long.
Did you see anyone at the Tortoise Belvedere last evening, or did anything at all catch your attention?
Sorry, Inspector Norm, but I saw nothing. I, for one, spent the evening in my room with my girlfriend, Christina.
Do you know anything about medicine?
No.
In that case, you can't help me. I get it. Good morning, miss. My name is Jack Norm. I'm a police inspector. I have to conduct an investigation on the death of Walter Jones.
Good morning, Inspector. I am Christina Bromsky. I am the girlfriend of Marco Jones, and Mr. Walter is not from my family. I didn't know him well. I don't like this place, which is full of sadness for Marco today.
I'm collecting footprints, and I'd like to add yours.
If it amuses you, Inspector, the feet, it is said, are an erogenous zone. I meant it for your investigation, of course.
Thanks. I need your assistance to clarify certain points. I'm surprised that Colio, even if he was angry at Jones, was not more grateful for his generosity.
In any case, it's not to me that Mr. Jones would have made a gift.
What can you tell me regarding the death of Walter Jones?
I don't know anything, Jack. It's the attorney who told us everything. He almost died to save the old man. Such courage is beautiful. Don't you agree, Jack?
Where were you and what were you doing last night?
I spent the evening in the room with Marco. We were both there. Sonia told us about the death of Mr. Jones around 11:30 p.m.
What was your relationship with Walter Jones?
I didn't know Mr. Jones well, Jack. But I feel bad for Marco, who loved his grandfather so much.
This menu seems utterly appetizing. Tell me, what are we eating today?
So you're gourmand, Inspector Norm?
This tower on this wild island, far from everything. Isn't it madness?
The photos are more beautiful than real life, Jack. The island doesn't enjoy good weather, and it's deadly boring. Good thing that you came to liven up the place.
What luxury. For some, the world is all roses. But where did the staff go? I don't see them.
Oh yeah? I wasn't in the know. I'm not very interested in these things. It's not good for a prestigious hotel like this one.
Walter Jones gave this to Baina, didn't he? What were the bonds that connected them?
A diamond? One has to find the woman, Jack. Walter Jones was still very young, wasn't he? Despite his age. He must have used the gift to... In short, you see what I'm saying, Jack?
Who is the rightful owner of this piece of chain?
I can't tell it all, Jack. Is it okay if I call you Jack?
No, call me whatever you prefer. I'm told that an accident left Baina mute. What is that about?
I don't know anything about it. I thought she was mute from birth.
Christina, can you confirm to me that you passed the end of the evening with Marco?
Yes, of course, Jack.
So, tell me a little about Billy.
Billy is very cool. He's a very funny guy. He definitely gambles in life, just as he does in poker.
I would love it if you could tell me a little about Sonia.
Sonia is not as nice as she seems. I am possibly the only one who sees the truth about this. She is a snub who was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She thinks only of herself. She looks down on those who cannot give her something. My life in this family is not very easy, you know, Jack?
What do you think of Colio?
The old man who lives near here? I don't know him.
What do you know about Lorenzo Battaglieri?
Lorenzo is a very charming man. He has a sort of tragic humor, which reminds me of my countrymen. I like him, Jack.
What do you think of Baina?
Baina? I am sorry, Jack, but I have nothing to say about her.
I would like to know more about Martin.
Martin is a very cultured man. He is also very charming. I like him a lot.
What do you think of the attorney, Hubert de Nolant?
Hubert de Nolant is a pretentious and arrogant man, Jack. He is even humiliating sometimes. A lowlife.
What can you tell me about Marco?
Marco. He is my darling. I am his guardian angel. I protect him as much as I can. I stick up for those I love, Jack.
What can you tell me about Clara?
She is very sweet, Jack. She is a little silly, but very nice. She married a gambler with a sense of humor, Jack, so she can't be bad.
Did you see anyone at the Tortoise Belvedere last evening, or did anything at all catch your attention?
I don't know anything about it, Mr. Norm. I spent the evening in my room with my boyfriend, Marco. After dinner and a short hand of poker, I learned of the death of Walter Jones around 11:30 p.m.
Do you know anything about medicine?
No, Jack. I'm sorry.
I understand. Too bad that you can't help me.
I see.
Hello, Fred. It's me, Marco.
Lorenzo Battaglieri's office.